now you're paying $250. No, you continue paying that $300. You just apply it to the next one, and you just apply it to the next one, right? Until all of them are gone, right? Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
All right, absolutely. All right, commit to stop borrowing. Some ways to overcome the debt challenge. All right? Most people have not been educated on how to properly use a credit card. That's why it's always that's why it's always seen as a bad use of debt. There's also some good uses of debt. Good uses and bad uses of debt. All right. Better get a little. All right. If you don't mind, Jay, if you could hook that up for me. There's an extension cord that you want. Thank you, sir. There's good uses and bad uses of debt. Good use of debt is purchasing a home. Purchasing a home is a good use of debt. Why? Because over time that property does what? Appreciates. Or it's supposed to. In a good market, right? It's supposed to appreciate over time, and then you're building equity in that home. So if you buy it at $100,000, 20 years or 15 or 10 years from now, it's now, what did I say, 100,000? It's now 200,000. So when you go to sell it, you just made $100,000 on top of that $1,000 that you owe. Does that make sense? All right, another good use of debt, they say, is investment in education. Right? I already seen somebody roll their eyes. Right? You're supposed to go to school, get a degree, walk into somebody's office and say, pay me more. Right? Doesn't always necessarily work out that way, but that's what's normally seen as a good use of debt. Bad use of debt is using credit cards in any way, shape, or form. Because most people haven't been educated on how to properly use a credit card. How do you properly use a credit card? There you go. You use, man, you want to come and finish up? You use the credit card for its purpose. So that means you already have the money, but you're utilizing it and you're paying it off when the bill comes. The entire amount. Right? So let's say, for instance, you have a gas card that gives you, no, that's even better. Let's say you have a card that gives you reward points for traveling. Right? How many people like to travel here? All right, everybody, right? So we have the card here that says every time you swipe it, it gives you points so that you can now use those points for air tickets, hotel, rent a car, things of that nature, right? So let's say you utilize the same money that you budgeted for. Let's say we budgeted gas for $200 a month. Instead of swiping your debit card for that gas, you swipe the credit card for that gas because you've already budgeted $200. So instead of having it come directly out of your bank account with that debit card, use the credit card, get the points, and utilize that same $200 to pay off that credit card at the end of the month.
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
It works, because I've been doing that for a long time. The key is to make sure you pay every month. My wife and I, we just booked a 5-day cruise, and it's completely paid for by a credit card.
All right. So if you probably, now it takes a lot of discipline to do that. All right, because it's very easy to say, well, we'll pay next month. Yes, sir, Jason.
Piggyback off of what he says.
Yes.
I also do that as well. The case in which I do it a lot is I go to school, and my organization pays for me to go to school. So when they send me the money, I then use my Delta American Express card, rack up the miles, and then I then go in. But I don't typically wait until the end of the month.
Right.
I typically do an even swap.
Right.
Pay for the card, log in on the app, send that money to the card.
Right.
That's where I keep myself disciplined. I tend to drift into the next month if I don't quite stay on top of it. And you can easily forget that
Right.
you added gas in somewhere, or you stopped at McDonald's and bought something. So for me, it works better than to not wait until the end of the month bill. I'm there at the gas station. I just put $20.83. Open the Chase app, $20.83 goes to my credit card.
All right, so that's if you're on it. Jay is on it.
Something.
Right? But most people don't have the time to be at the gas pump like, right? Not to say Jay ain't busy, but I'm saying, if we're being realistic, understanding that the discipline comes in when that bill comes, right? And you can say, okay, I already budgeted that money. Now I can pay that off, and now I'm earning the points. That's how you're supposed to properly use that card. All right? Now, getting started is easy. Commit to stop borrowing. List all your debts in order of amount, from those with the largest to the highest balance, or by interest rate from highest to lowest. Pay more than the minimum each month on debt one while paying the minimum on the other debt. So we just talked about that, but it's showing you how to properly do that. All right? Any questions on that? I don't want to belabor the point. But that's manageable debt. So we just talked about manageable debt. I want to talk to you really quickly about debt that is not manageable. So I see families all the time, and there comes a time where your income and debt is not meeting, right? And a recommendation will be made to say you may want to consider getting help to get yourself on the right track as far as debt goes. All right? This is when we talk about debt that is not manageable. Now, there's several ways or several options that you have when it comes on to debt that is not manageable. All right? And one of the quiz questions talk about it. All right? Consolidation is one. Bankruptcy is another. Debt negotiation is another. All right, I'll explain how all three of these options work. All right. What does consolidation mean? All they do is take all your debt payments, put it all one lump sum, and then you still pay the balance, the interest, and the amount, and you pay it off. Does that sound like a good idea? Long term. Not really. Because all they're doing is putting it all together and say, okay, you pay me one payment, but you're going to still pay all the interest, you're going to still pay the entire balance off. All right? That's how consolidation works. Then we have bankruptcy. Not saying that bankruptcy is bad, but I'm saying it does not apply to everyone. In certain situations it does. All right? If you're just like drowning in debt because of situations, circumstances, and we do see it, all right, bankruptcy may be the way to go. But bankruptcy shows up on your credit, doesn't it? And it can stay there for a very long time. Right? Was it 7 years? 7 years. Right? And that has an adverse effect on your purchasing power. Right? If any lender sees bankruptcy, what do they do? Red flag, right? So bankruptcy, I'm not saying that it's a bad option, but it's like kind of like a last resort type of option, right? Where the income just does not match up with how much debt you have, and we don't foresee that changing anytime soon. You may want to consider that. There's another option out there called debt negotiation. All right. Now, there's companies out there that will look at your debt, take on your debt, and actually negotiate your debt with with your creditors. All right? And what they actually do is negotiate the balances of that debt. So let's say, for instance, you have a debt with Capital One. I'll call it Capital One because Capital One, I don't like it. All right, Capital One. Why, you may ask? When I see clients all the time that have Capital One cards, and they are the worst when it comes down to negotiation or settlement, right? They do not budge. They take people to court. Yeah.
They pay for my cruise.
All right, well, they'll know. I don't particularly like them. Just
It's if you pay off your debt.
yeah. I mean, you're in a good situation. But I'm saying, if you fall into that trap, right, they are not the most helpful. I'm not saying that any one company is, but I'm saying for them, they are kind of on the high note. All right, because I speak with debt negotiating companies all the time, and that is the one company that always has a problem with society. All right? Yes, sir.
Is it because Capital One, they take anybody? And it doesn't matter, is it because of that?
I'm not sure. I can't say that. Definitely. But let's say we use this credit card, and let's say you had $10,000 in debt with this company, right? What a debt negotiation company will do, they will contact Capital One and they'll say, we have Robert in our debt negotiation program, and what can we do to settle this debt? And the company will come back and say, well, we'll settle it for $5,000 or $7,500. Okay? All right? Now, what you do as the client, they will take, so you're now involved in the debt negotiation company. Right? The debt negotiation company says you have this amount of debt. If you give us X amount of dollars per month, that goes over into this escrow account, we will now negotiate your debt with your companies here, right? Not only will we bring your debt balances down, but now you don't have to worry about paying the interest on them in addition to that as well. So not only will you lower that payment, but you don't have any interest to worrying about. All right? You pay us monthly, and then we negotiate that balance with your creditor. And then once we get to that number, let's say for instance we said $5,000. Once you save up $5,000 with us, we go ahead and pay that off for you. And then we move on to the next company, the next company, the next company. All right? Now, what is the adverse effect on debt negotiation companies? When you see that on your credit, let's say you paid off Capital One through the debt negotiation company. What Capital One will show on your credit report is that you had a balance with us, but you paid it off for less than what you owed. All right? Now, does that sound better than saying you had a bankruptcy? Absolutely. All right? Lenders will look at that and say, okay, all right, great. All right? So that's really the options that you have out there when we talk about debt that is not manageable. How do we get ourselves out of debt and start ourselves on a better financial foot? Those are the options that you have. All right. So we talked about manageable debt, and we talked about debt that is not manageable. All right. Any questions on that? All right. So that's it for tonight. Any questions on cash flow, budgeting, debt management, anything like that that we can talk to before we head out for the evening? Yes, sir.
All right. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I was in debt for Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And I tried to go to Bank of America and because I needed a good credit to purchase a car.
Okay.
So I tried to go to Bank of America to build my credit, to get a credit card, but it didn't process. So I don't know, they never gave a reason why it didn't process. Like I don't really understand. Like if you have debt with, let's say I have debt with Wells Fargo, I can't try to build it up with Bank of America. Wouldn't they want to be in my best interest?
Okay, so you have to look at the situation as if you were the bank, right? If I was Wells Fargo and if I were Bank of America, right? You have a balance with Wells Fargo, right? Now, guess what Bank of America can do? They can see that you have a balance with Wells Fargo because it's on your credit report, right? So if I come over to Bank of America, I say, Bank of America, I need a card. They're gonna look at your credit report and they're gonna say, oh, you have a balance with Wells Fargo. If I were the bank, would I turn around and give you more credit if I know you have a balance with Wells Fargo already? If you were the bank.
No. But I'm saying, where is like, I'm trying to build my credit,
Right.
So how could I do that if another bank is not willing to help me build my credit?
So that's why we talked about the tools and ways to help you not only budget, but accelerate your debt payments. Because the only way to do that is to pay off your debt, all right? Because that's actually the way that you build your credit back up. Let's say you have a balance of $1,000, right? It shows that you have a balance of $1,000 on your credit report, all right? The more that you pay that off, now your balance is at $800. Guess what? Your credit score goes up because now you're $200 less as far as your balance goes. There's another quick concept I'll share with you just because of that question. Have you all heard of what's called your debt to income ratio? Have you heard of that? Debt to income ratio? All right. Some have, some haven't. Your debt to income ratio is a percentage or a ratio that lenders look at when they look at a potential borrower. And what they do is they divide your debt payments by your gross income. Right? Your debt payments by your gross income. Your monthly debt payments by your gross income on a monthly basis. Once they do this division, you're going to come up with a percentage. All right? That percentage lets them know how risky you are as a borrower. And what this 20% represents is it says that